He's got an eye for photography, award-winning photography, and the best part, he works for DiscoverNEPA. Meet Matt next. Hello everyone, I'm Don Jacobs, and I'm standing in front of the building that's the home to DiscoverNEPA. Inside that office, talented people. But we're gonna go wild with DiscoverNEPA and talk about photography and birding with DiscoverNEPA's award-winning photographer, Matt Giambra.
I get paid to do what I love. It's a dream, honestly. It's been an amazing journey, and I'm looking forward to many more years to come.
So you shoot everything that DiscoverNEPA wants, but one of your loves is wildlife and specifically birds, right?
Yeah, and it's funny. It's a funny story how I even got here. I thought I was going to be a landscape photographer.
Okay.
Living in Northeast PA, you're not getting, like the canyons out in Utah or like the big ravines out in Nevada or anything like that. But I was getting beautiful trees and flowers and mountains, rivers. But after a while, I just started, I remember it was the winter, and I was working at my old job, and I was just like, you know what, I got to start taking photos of something else. And what else is there to photograph but birds? So, and that's kind of how I started. And then I started taking a photo. It was okay. I was kind of mad. I was like, well, that's not really a good photo at all. So then I started taking more photos and trying to get better. And then I started learning more about them. And it wasn't until my old boss at the time, Roger Spots, he came into my office when I was working at the district, and he was like, Matt, there's a whole flock of cedar waxwings outside of our window. You have to come out. Like, do you have your camera? And I was like, yes. Right. Went out there, and still some of my favorite photos were of these cedar waxwings plucking berries off of this bush in the snow as it was snowing. Oh, it was just an amazing experience, and ever since then, that was it. I would never go back.
As the luck would have it, a flock of cedar waxwings made an appearance.
This is a dream of mine. I'm sorry. So cedar waxwings, they're my favorite bird. And I think the reason why I love them so much is because a lot of the pretty birds, they migrate and they kind of come to the area and then they're gone. Cedar waxwings, though, they always look stunning and they stay.
So this sort of proves that you don't have to go deep in the woods. You can just walk in a parking lot.
Well, that's just it. We were just about to go deep into the woods. we didn't have to. They're right here.
If somebody came up and said, I love your stuff, how would I get started?
Well, that's the thing. So I won't sugarcoat it. Photography can be an expensive hobby, but it doesn't have to be as expensive as some of the pros. So kind of what I always say is start small and then work your way up. And I would always say buy used. I still buy used to this day. I think that's probably the best bang for your buck. So what I currently shoot on, I love Canon equipment. So I started shooting, this is a Canon R7. It's a crop sensor, which means that it's already giving you that extra punch. So you're actually almost zoomed in a little bit further than whether you would be in a full size sensor. So what I would recommend is getting something with a crop sensor. They're a lot less expensive. You get that, you're punched in a little bit more, okay, and then get any lens that you could afford that can get you the magnification that you're looking for.
And what kind of magnification? I mean, you could shoot a bird at 10 feet or you could shoot a bird at 100 yards, right?
It depends on how quiet you are. And,
and if your kids are with you.
And if your kids are with you or not. So this is how I really kind of got started. This is a 100 to 400 zoom.
Okay.
And paired that with a crop sensored camera, I'm getting somewhere about like almost 600 millimeters when you're zoomed in all the way.
Okay.
And I would say that's a good starting point. Anything less than that, you could get some nice photos. The bird may not be the main focus. You're going to get more scenery, which is also very pretty, so that works too. But if you want to get anything closer, I would say at least 400 millimeters is what you want to get if you're trying to look for bird portraiture.
Okay,
put it that
but you
way.
got a big boy toy here, right? What's this?
This is my new love. Yeah, this one. So this is the one that I have to explain to my wife. It's really important that I do this for my job. But this is the 200 to 800 millimeter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is really going to get me in there. This is what I went down to 𝗚𝗢 𝗪𝗟𝗏 and I was getting some incredible photos of eagles. And if it wasn't for the magnification of this 800 millimeter, those birds were so high above us, there was no way I would have been able to get a photograph with just a 400 millimeter lens.
And of course, it really does help when the animals or the birds that you're shooting puts on a show for you. Like that day, I mean, you had immature eagles doing their little aerial dance.
It was probably one of my favorite days to photograph birds, to be honest, because I've always had an interest in raptor photography, big birds, because they're easy to shoot, they're bigger. Songbirds, I fell in love with that a little bit later on, but my first love was the raptors. Never had a day like I had at Hawk Mountain, and they were just in the air. They were immature eagles, and they were, you know, I guess when they were adults it would be their courtship, but as immatures, and they were just playing around, and they were getting their talons into each other, spinning around in the sky. It was just, I was in heaven. And I was just like, I can't believe this is what's happening in front of me right now. And it happened all day long.
From cedar waxwings to eagles, you don't know what you're going to get when you're out there. Give me another good example of like an episode or something that put a smile on your face.
I would say when I was at my old job, we had these ponds in the winter that got frozen over, and there were some mallards out there. And the mallards were in the frozen part of the water, and then they would go into this little open area. And the one duck came out of the water, and I guess in order to warm themselves after being in frigid cold water, they kind of do this move where he had his leg up, and he looked like a ballerina, and he's just stretching his leg out. And I'm like photographing this duck. I'm like, this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And it was just a regular mallard. You see them all over the place. But that's kind of what I'm realizing is the longer you spend with a subject, the more creative your shots can get.
Right.
If you just say, hey, there's a duck, photograph it and then move away, you never know what he was going to do afterwards. And if I had just photographed that dog floating in water with some ice on it, that would have been my only shot. But I stayed with him, photographed him till the end, and then I got that really cool shot with his leg up in the air, and it was fun.
So you were saying even bad weather. You like shooting in the rain and
the
wind?
The wind and the rain and the snow, it just makes it look, your eyes aren't used to seeing, because we're not out in that weather. So you're not used to seeing what animals look like when they're out in that weather. So when you get those photos, to me, they're a little bit more unique. I have this one really funny photo of a blue jay. A blue jay sitting in a tree, not a big deal. It's a decent photo. But I have this one where the wind was blowing and his hair was like spiked up. It doesn't look natural. You're not used to seeing a bird like that. So like I like that. And then I was telling you, even the cardinals in the rain, you know, just getting, as the rain is falling, and just getting like a bird with a wet beak, you know, and just sitting in there, it just adds a different mood, a different feel. So yeah, bad weather is actually kind of fun to shoot in.
And with these cameras, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you could hold that button down and take 1 million photos in less than 3 seconds, right?
It's dangerous, but yes, you can really blow through some memory cards. It takes up a lot of storage, but it's well worth it. You can really get kind of like when you're flipping through a picture book and you kind of just watch this whole entire thing unfold. You can put the pictures in programs so you can play it like a video. And it's like almost like a stop motion, and it's really incredible. So yeah, it's really, really fun.
Okay, a lifetime of photography, award-winning. He's so into birds. You heard Matt's energy level go when those cedar waxwings were there. He's an amazing photographer, and I'm happy to work with him at DiscoverNEPA. Now, for this episode of Go Wild with DiscoverNEPA and all the other episodes, you can see them at discovernepa.com, or you can subscribe to YouTube.